welcome to First Things First. Kawhi with the dunk of the playoffs. Has momentum shifted in LA's direction? Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, things aren't going too well. They lose in Atlanta to the Hawks. Embiid ailing. Will his ailing knee cut the Sixers season short? And tonight, can KD take the Bucks down with no Harden and no Kyrie? Good Tuesday morning alongside Brandon Marshall. Nick Wright, I'm Kevin Wilds. Brandon, you wore your lucky turtleneck. Can KD get it done all by himself tonight?
Yes, he can. He's going to have to go for 45, and
there
he'll get it done tonight.
There you go. You're back. See?
That's what Nick's been waiting
there you
for.
We're going to start this morning in L.A. Jazz Clippers Game 4. Kawhi and Paul George had the Clips out in front by as many as 29 in the first half. Both superstars ended up scoring 31. Clippers blew out Utah again in Game 4 to tie the series at 2 apiece. Kawhi and Paul George now just the 5th duo since the merger, with 30 points each in back-to-back playoff games, joining LeBron and Kyrie, Shaq and Kobe, Hakeem and Clyde, Mike and Scotty, two greats. Here was Paul George after the game.
But, you know, Game 5 is a pivotal. And so that's the way we're looking at this. We got to go in there. We know it's going to be, you know, even more hostile, but we got to drown out the noise and go there for one mission. And that one mission is to not come back there. And so, you know, that's the mindset. We got to try to go and get Game 5.
Brandon, what did last night's win tell you about the Clippers?
Okay, Dub, that the Clippers are in total control. And that's really interesting. A couple days ago, talking about this, you know, there was only, less than a 20% chance of a team coming back down 0-2 and doing it twice in a row. You know, the Mavs last series and now down to the Jazz, who the Jazz just took total control after, the third quarter in the first game. Man, this is unbelievable. It also told me that, you know, Donovan Spider Mitchell is a monster, bona fide superstar, but he needs Mike Conley. Like, he needs him. Where are you at, buddy? Yeah. Come help out your boy. It's a little too much for him. And the other thing is Paul George. Every time we talk about Paul George, every time Paul George talks, we're always talking about his mindset. Woo! There was a breakthrough. We're talking about 2 games in a row, 30 points. Where have you been? Like, I love the aggressiveness, Nick. I love that he just didn't care getting to the rim. Even when he missed the basket, you know, his response and how he was, you know, responding after a missed or bad play. That's what you need. There's sometimes players get too much in a therapeutic state and you start trying to figure out the balance. You start trying to figure out how do you cope, how do you manage. And then there's times where I got to tap back into that savage that got me to this point. Now, off the court, off the field, you have to be in total control. But sometimes on the court, you just got to let loose. And that's what he's been doing the last 2 games. A lot of us haven't, you know, we haven't thought that, we didn't think that he was going to do that. And he did that the last 2 games, and that's why they're in this position. That's why they're in total control, Nick.
Well, I don't know if I agree with you they're in total control, but I agree with almost everything else you said. On the Jazz side of things, they have 7 guys they trust. One of them hasn't been here this series. So they're essentially a 6-man team playing a 9-man rotation. So you're just putting guys out there for minutes that you don't really want to have out there. Last night, their bench was terrible, in part because Joe Ingles is supposed to be part of the bench, but with Mike Conley out, he can't be. And so you did finally, these couple games, really see how much they missed Conley. On the Clippers side of things, though, this was the blueprint. When they put this team together, the idea was Kawhi and Paul George will combine for right around 60. They probably thought 55, 60 would be a bonus. One other guy on our deep team will hit from 3. Last night was Marcus Morris. And defense will carry us the rest of the way. Well, last night, check, check, and check. It's exactly how, in theory, they were supposed to look. And the Jazz got the reminder, Wilds, that they shouldn't have gotten, that they shouldn't have needed to get, I should say, which is in the playoffs, you cannot punt on a quarter. It was 30-13 after 1. Game's over. It's not impossible to come back from that, but against a really good team, unless something outlandish happens, you're probably not going to come back from that. It's what happened to the Lakers, by the way, in the final 2 games against Phoenix. It's like, oh, we'll watch the rest of the game, but it's over after the first quarter. You dug yourself too big of a hole. Where I would say the reason why I disagree with Brandon, the Clippers are in complete control, is 2 things are noteworthy. One is Utah has home court in this series, not the Clippers. So if it does go 7, it won't be in Los Angeles as it was against Dallas. And the other is this. The Clippers haven't won 3 straight games since April. They haven't strung 3 straight really good games together since early April. And so it's not shocking that they went home and took care of business. Maybe a little shocking they dominated these 2 games the way they did for, majority of both of these games. But I feel like the winner of Game 5 wins the series, and I feel like you've got to look at Utah as at least the slight favorite in Game 5, particularly if Conley can come back and give them a little something.
Yeah, but I think they're monster favorites in Game 5. Here's the thing. Utah is a great team at home, and they're the Indiana Pacers on the road. They had the same record as the Indiana Pacers and the Lakers when they're on the road. So it's like, sure, the reasons why they were the #1 seed is that they were 31-5 at home. And I think they know, never mind punting on a quarter, I almost felt like they punted on both of these games. Once you're down by 29 last night, they were down 28 in Game 3. They looked around and said, you know what, Donovan's still getting his. But for everybody else, they get to another level at home. And if you go 31-5 at home, Nick, they lost 1 game to Memphis in the playoffs at home, the one that Donovan didn't play. So Donovan hasn't lost at home yet. I think Utah has a significant advantage in Game 5. I do think they lose in Game 6, then they go back and it goes Game 7. But with home court advantage, they take it home.
So here's the other thing, and Brandon, let me just add, I got a question for you, Brandon. Sorry to interrupt, because we've been talking a lot about Paul George, and this was a late night game last night, so I don't know how much of the audience saw the very end. Kawhi didn't play the final 4 minutes of this game. He seemed to tweak his lower body, I think his knee, missed a couple free throws, then went to the bench. And you might say, well, he didn't play because they were blowing him out. The Jazz actually did cut this to 10. The Clippers had the rest of their starters in there, and Ty Lue was cautious with Kawhi. Kawhi's been so fragile, and with the games just now 48 hours apart, I do think what we saw from Paul George in Games 3 and 4, you are going to have to see in Game 5, because I don't know what version of Kawhi, right, exactly right, because I don't know what version of Kawhi you're going to get in Game 5.
Yeah, and look, this series is far from over, but when you come back from a deficit, down 0-2, and there's only been, a handful of teams that ever do that, and you do that twice, man, the mindset that you have and what that does to your mojo, that's everything. So you got to look at what they're doing as a team right now. They look like the Clippers from the first half of the first game. They totally dominated the Jazz. That was the team, what you said was the blueprint. That was the team that we all expected to see when they put this thing together. You just said that. So we don't know where Kawhi is going to be. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Paul George. When you have a guy that you're counting on, we're talking about a superstar. We're talking about a guy that takes up so much of your cap, and he's just average. And then he all of a sudden taps back into the dog that you call him, that you signed him to be. Man, this could be lights out for him. Now, hopefully this is sustainable. Everything he's saying, everything he's doing, he needs to continue to be aggressive. That's why you saw a revitalized Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's looking over like, oh, where the hell you been? All right, you want to dunk on people like that? You want to take shots and rebound like that? All right, I'm with you. So Paul George, it comes down to Paul George, Nick. That's what it is. He is the secret sauce. He got to step up and continue to do this.
Trae Young rallied the Hawks to another win last night. Surprise of the playoffs, superstar emerging. We'll discuss after the break. Hawks rallied to beat a hobbled Joel Embiid and the Sixers. Tie the series at 2. Trae's averaging a smooth 28 and 10 in these playoffs. So Brandon, Trae Young's postseason has been what?
Moon tabulous. No, I'm sorry. I tried to be quick. No, this is a bit. This is interesting for me, right? It feels like an awakening, not for Trae Young, but more so for America, avid NBA fans. This dude was drafted and we thought he was a gimmicky player. We didn't know what his position in the NBA would be. He's more than a shooter. This dude can get it done. He seems to always make the right decision. We saw that in the last series against the Knicks. He loved playing into the crowd. He loves the challenge. He loves to compete. This dude makes phenomenal passes. This guy is a bona fide superstar. And Nick, one of the things that we tend to forget is something that I forgot is that, the Hawks, they took Luka. And then they end up trading Luka for Trae Young, and it feels like he's starting to close that gap. So this is interesting. It's a bit of an awakening for me.
That's a bridge too far for me, but Trae has been very good. I'm, however, going to take this in a different direction, Brandon, but you're right. I mean, the Hawks took Luka 3, the Mavs took Trae 5, and they swapped for each other day of the draft. My answer here is once in a lifetime. And you might be like, Nick, we've seen guys average 28 and 10 in the playoffs. No, I mean once in Trae's lifetime. I hope he enjoys this because I don't know if you saw the Woj bomb yesterday, but the NBA is saying enough of the jabroni foul drawing. Trae Young, you're on notice. James Harden, you're on notice. My large adult Slovenian son, Luka, you might a little bit be on notice as well. The NBA Competition Committee looking at adjusting fouls for unnatural shooting motion. Reggie Miller's watching like, wait, my shooting motion? No, they mean not to bad form. They mean something like this, where you leap into a guy, where you stop and start. All this nonsense Trae does to get to the line. The NBA says it's bad for the game. They're right about that. And so
Nick,
Trae better run this out as, yes, Brandon. Yes, tell me.
Let me ask you a question. So if you were in the NBA, it seemed like you would do this. You seem like you would be the guy that would actually take this move.
That's correct. I do not at all begrudge guys for exploiting the rules. It is the league's job to then change the rules. It's smart. Just like the thing Trae did with the clock, letting the ball roll where the clock runs and the shot clock doesn't. Those are smart things. It's like Belichickian. Like, it's your fault the rules are screwed up. It's my job to exploit them. But now, Wilds, the league has to close these loopholes. So I feel like Trae's, ease with which he's dominated some of this postseason might come to an end pretty quickly next season. Look at this. That ain't basketball.
Okay.
That's terrible.
No, it's not. It ain't. That's what Steve Nash said. We got more Steve Nash sound coming up. Bucks Nets tonight. PJ Tucker's played great defense on KD. Game 4, Durant finished 1 of 8 from deep. But the old former two-time MVP, Steve Nash that is, didn't love the defensive technique. Take a listen.
He's playing extremely physical and made it difficult. That's his role on their team. I thought it was borderline non-basketball physical at times, but that's the playoffs.
Oh my God.
Borderline non-basketball. Brandon, Steve Nash's comments about PJ Tucker's defense on KD after Game 4 were what?
Look, of course I want PJ Tucker to take it easy on my guy. And Nick, after Game 1, you said, let's watch out for PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker's can give KD a hard time. What, Nick? Are you kidding me? We're talking about the second best player in the NBA. No way. There's nobody can stop PJ Tucker. And lo and behold, PJ Tucker have made it difficult on KD. So, of course, I want him to take it easy. But look, This reminds me of AAU basketball. I played for Team Nike with Amari Stoudemire. Played for, the Atlanta Celtics with Josh Powell on the big team. And, I saw this on the circuit. This is AAU basketball. This is playoff basketball. I actually think if the NBA embraced this a little more, we will actually see ratings higher during the regular season.
Wow.
Why do we have to wait to the playoffs to get this type of basketball? This is what the people want.
I agree with all of that. Listen, this is Steve Nash setting the table. And this is Steve Nash doing the old Phil Jackson, prime the refs before the game, because the most interesting part of Game 4 was the 5 minutes in the third quarter after P.J. Tucker picked up his fourth foul, when Kevin Durant all of a sudden was unlocked. He scored 14 points in 5 minutes on 4 of 6 shooting. Why? Because P.J. Tucker was on the bench. So if you're considering betting on tonight's game, I would recommend do a live bet. Wait and see if P.J. Tucker gets 2 early fouls. If he does, the pendulum shifts massively in Brooklyn's favor. But P.J. Tucker, man, has caused a lot of problem for Brooklyn this series, Wilds. And I don't know if you guys saw, after Game 4, they had to evacuate the arena because there was an alarm going off. My reporting says that was actually Katie's bodyguard called in the SWAT team to arrest P.J. Tucker. It ended up being diffused. Didn't happen. But I mean, they've tried everything. Katie's bodyguard has tried to run up on him. Nash is calling him a football player. They pulled a fire alarm. P.J. Tucker's giving him a lot of problems. A lot of problems, Wilds.
Man, he's about to drop 45 on PJ.
It's time for the weird and the wonderful. Marlins Cardinals, base hit up the middle. Seems everything's going as planned. Uh-oh, misplays it. Now, you know what? I might as well try to score here. Yadi Molina misses the tag. Don't worry. Got you. Good job. That's why you always block the plate, Nick. What do I tell you when we're playing softball in the First Things First League? I say, Nick, block the plate with your shoes. You're like, no, Wild, I don't want to get my shoes dirty. That's why we lost to CNBC the other day. I haven't forgotten. Moving on to the wonderful Virginia versus Dallas Baptist in the Super Regionals. DBU second baseman Jackson Glenn belts one. Look at the fan. You know what? I'm telling my kids all the time, get off the screen. Turns out I'm just wrong. This guy made some excellent job actually working for the broadcast facility. So good job. Got a little linear TV famous there. I'll tell you what, buddy, you got a free souvenir. Probably should invoice for the footage, too. Little old producer tip from your old friend Kevin Wild. Invoice that. Nothing's free in this world. Moving on. Back to playoff basketball. Will the Sixers season be cut short by Joel Embiid's meniscus?
Ooh.
See what these guys think next. This is First Things First.
Wilds, Dallas Baptist, the team.
Welcome back to First Things First. Sixers-Hawks game 4. Sixers look like they were on their way to taking a 3-1 lead. They were up by 18 at one point, but Trae Young brought the Hawks back. Rally was capped off by Trae's floater with just over a minute left to give the Hawks the lead and the win. Meanwhile, Embiid missed a shot for the lead in the final 10 seconds. That was missed shot number 12 for Joel. He was 0 for 12 from the field in the second half. Here's Embiid after the loss.
It happens. Bad game happens. I've been playing well. And, sometimes you just can't control it. Sometimes I thought in the second half a bunch of shots were in and out. There was a couple calls that could have gone, either way. I can do better. I can always be better. But as far as, just being 100%, I don't think that's going to happen, until the year is actually over. So I said I just got to go out and, manage it and just deal with it.
I saw that whenever you wear him out, it's everything becomes tougher for him. So that's how I know. I knew it was a long series, and when the fatigue comes in, it's a different ballgame.
Okay, Nick, you heard it from Joel himself. Said he's not 100%. Also said no excuses, but then again, you're not 100%. It's kind of an excuse. Also an explanation. Did last night make you question whether the Sixers can rely on Joel, throughout the playoffs?
No, it didn't make me question whether they can rely on him, but it was a horrific loss. This is the type of loss that is going to reverberate for the rest of the Sixers season, potentially, unfortunately. And not because of some mental hurdle, but because of the added 48 minutes of basketball they are now going to have to play. And when your superstar, your MVP, arguably the league's MVP, finished second in the voting, when that guy ends up, when he's on a torn meniscus, and now instead of this being over in 5, it's going to have to go 6, it, to me, significantly lowers your chances of winning the championship. Right now, Philly, well, all year, Philly's been my pick to come out of the East. I still think they'll come out of the East. And they had to be feeling better than anybody in basketball, not named the Phoenix Suns, the last 24 hours. It's like, wow, Brooklyn is wobbly and wounded. Milwaukee hasn't exactly looked great throughout this series. Meanwhile, after we played a bad half of basketball against Atlanta to start this, other than that, we've been rolling people. And Brandon, that continued. You can't have an 18-point lead in a playoff game and blow it. In the last 25 years, Atlanta, prior to last night, 50 times in the playoffs had been down by at least 14 points. They were 0-50. That's a lot of different teams, a lot of different players. You know why? Because teams typically don't blow these massive leads in the postseason. So I still think Philly's going to win this series in 6, but they should have won it in 5. And now the odds of Embiid hurting that knee further, something else happening, Danny Green's already out, all of that goes up. So that's all bad for Philly last night.
Well, but Nick, you know, as a player, I mean, you have to question it. Because as a player, all you're doing in the offseason, all you're doing for the first half of the season is conditioning your body for the workload. It's too much of a workload. Have we ever seen him go back to back to back to back? On top of that, dealing with a tear in his knee and his meniscus. So it could be just too much. You saw it was clear. No legs. When your legs are gone, you have no chance as an athlete. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And you saw the guys on TNT, Charles and Kenny and Shaq debate this. It's like he had no legs. He looked like a different athlete. So it's concerning because if he doesn't go out there and give you 30, 35 points and, 15, 20 boards, which he had 21 boards last night. So he did his part on that end. But if he's not contributing, on the offensive side and getting buckets, then you don't have a chance. Tobias was supposed to step up in a game like this. When you see him struggling, when you see the big guy, the big fella out there pushing through, you got to give him 25, 30. You gave him 20. Anybody can do that, man, in the NBA. You are supposed to be the guy that contribute, not Ben Simmons. He is a different guy. We know that. So, yeah, it's a bit concerning. So, this is a problem, and you're seeing why the Hawks are savvy. They're a little a feisty bunch, and this is going to turn into a series that could potentially go to Game 7.
Well, so listen, the worst case for Philly is that this thing goes 7. If this goes 7, then you start to really doubt whether or not Embiid's going to have enough in the tank if and when they get to the finals. But you mentioned the other guys. As frustrated as it was to watch Embiid in the second half last night, he just had an off night and he's clearly not right. Wilds, I think Ben Simmons was actually worse. Ben Simmons took one shot in the second half. I'd rather 0 for 12 than 1 for 1. If you're Ben, you've got to recognize what we all recognized, which is that Embiid wasn't right. And he is not the offensive player that can take over games, but he can take over moments. And he was great on defense, and he helped force a shot clock violation late, which gave Philly a chance. I know all of that. But Embiid went 0 for 12 in the second half. and scored more second-half points than Ben Simmons did because Simmons was not attacking at all. I'm not asking Ben Simmons to be a 25-point-per-game guy, but in the second half, he needed to recognize that the only guy who seemed like he wanted to shoot other than Embiid was Korkmaz. Seth Curry a little bit.
Right.
Like, Ben's got to find a way to get ahead of steam and go downhill and get to the basket. Now, part of that was the Hawks didn't turn the ball over at all. Only 2 second-half turnovers, only 4 for the game, so Ben couldn't get out in transition. But one more Ben Simmons basket, and the game's incredibly different. And he only took 1 shot last night in the second half, which ain't great.
Yeah, so Brandon, we all know sort of Ben's sort of offensive limitations, and there's been excuses made for it. Some people think that he needs to work on his game. Other people think like he's just a defensive powerhouse. That is who he is. Do you think any of this goes on Doc Rivers? That's Doc Rivers' job to give Ben sort of like the keys to the car and be like, Ben, you need to drive us home here. We want to see a lot from you, and then give Ben the green light to take over the game. So I'm not putting this all on Ben. It feels like Doc could sort of encourage him a little bit more. Now, granted, Ben has a spotty history at sort of like leaning into that encouragement because Brett Brown wanted him to shoot threes, and he's like, no thanks. Brett Brown was like, hey, shoot a three. I don't care if you miss it. He's like, no, I'm not going to. So I don't know if it necessarily would have worked, but I wonder if Doc could have been more aggressive in telling Ben to also be more aggressive.
But isn't this where Doc Rivers excels? Like, we talk about the top 5 strategists, and putting together a game plan. No one's ever thrown Doc Rivers in that category or in that list. But when it comes down to leadership, he's right there. So isn't that his job? Because I do agree with Nick. I don't think you run your offense through him, but he is more than capable of lowering his shoulder and getting to the basket. This is a big boy. This is a dude who can handle the rock. This is a dude who's more than capable. There's too many times where you do see him get to the basket, then dish it. It's like, bro, go finish it off. So I do think there's more you can get out of him. You can't just go ahead.
No, I'll ask Nick. Nick, do you think his reluctance to go to the line is sort of affecting his aggressiveness and just going to the hole?
Well, 100%.
Almost like Giannis, like, I really don't want to be at the line.
I think he doesn't want to get fouled. I think that's a huge part of it because I remember, I don't know if it was game 2 or game 3 of the playoffs a few years ago against Brooklyn when Embiid was out for the game. Like, he was ruled out before the game. And Ben went for 30 points without hitting jump shots. And you know why? Because he was attacking. In that game, he shot around a dozen free throws. I think made 80% of them. He was not worried about going to the line. He said, I'm going to put my head down and get to the basket. And right now, Ben seems very hesitant to go to the line. And because if your whole game is getting to the rim, and the other team is fine fouling you, and you're not fine being fouled, then you're only going to get baskets in transition. Atlanta turned the ball over once a quarter last night. If you look at the box score, if you didn't watch the game, you're like, how did Atlanta win? They shot 36% from the field. They shot 30% from 3. Trae Young shot 30% for the game. It's like, wait, how did they win? They had 4 turnovers. They took care of the basketball, and Philly's offense was stuck in the mud because Embiid wasn't going. Ben Simmons wasn't going. Tobias is going to give you what he gives you, and then all of a sudden, you are in a position where it's like, Korkmaz, come save us, and Korkmaz ain't gonna save you. So yeah, like Ben, at some point you've got to be willing to get fouled, even if you're shooting 50% from the line, because there are good things that come from that, and you might get an and one. You might not get fouled, but you got to go to the rim and attack if Embiid is clearly not right for the whole second half.
But here's the thing, too, and it goes back to Wild's question, Nick. It's, what's on Doc Rivers? Now, I'm not a guy that's going to get deep into the scheme of the, NBA and what team is doing this, what team is doing that. I'm a fan. But I do, because of football and looking at how teams game plan and how people, try to game plan this player or this scheme, I'm looking at that. And what I saw last night was Doc Rivers getting out coached because it looked like that was Chip Kelly's offense out there. They made the 76ers play their game. It was like no huddle offense, fast-paced, go. They had 100 possessions. So, yeah, we can talk about Ben. We can talk about Joel Embiid. But when you think about that, how that game was played, they forced them to play their game. That's not that type of team. Their team is not a run-and-gun, fast-break type of team. That's not them. They like to get in the set. They like to get Embiid involved, whether it's on the block, back to the basket, out there on the perimeter, making a couple moves. That's not their game. And Doc Rivers was clearly out-coached last night.
Doc lost 4 of the last 5 playoff series after leading 2-1. Hey, time for NBA medals. Donovan, 37, 5, and 5 last night, but the Jazz lost. Donovan just missed a medal. Nick, which 3 guys were better?
Yeah, can't give you a medal when I don't care how many points you scored. Team got blown out. Didn't just lose, got blown out, so you don't get a medal. I'll tell you who does get a medal. Bronze medal. Kawhi Leonard. 31 points, 31, 7, and 3 for Kawhi. This monster dunk. Kawhi has had 2 absolute poster dunks this season. I think the 2 best dunks of the playoffs have both come courtesy of Kawhi, but tweaked his knee late. That is a massive storyline to monitor. Silver medal, Trae Young, 25 points. But actually not that impressive as far as shooting the basketball last night. He was 8 of 26 from the field. That's just over 30%. But he more than made up for it with the 18 assists. So Trae Young gets a silver medal and then a gold medal. Oh, Paul George. Do it once. We say do it again. Well, he did it again. Back-to-back 30-point games after not scoring 30 all postseason. The man who is under as much pressure as anyone in these NBA playoffs has responded with 2 excellent performances in back-to-back must-win games for the Clippers. So, Paul George, congrats to you. Your first ever playoff gold medal. I think he only had 1 regular season gold medal. Paul George with the gold, Brandon.
So Nick, so the Hawks, they took Luka a couple years ago. The Mavs had Trae, and then there was a trade. You sure? And a lot of people are crushing them. You sure that Trae's not closing the gap on your large adult son?
No. Let's just pump the brakes a bit. I'm sure Luka might be the best player in the whole league. My large adult Slovenian son. That's not nepotism by me. It's truth-telling. It's truth-telling by me. Nobody's closing the gap on Luka. Come on.
Hey, just missing the cut. Pay attention, Joker. This is how you give someone a flagrant foul. A tackle, then the immediate apology. If you apologize quick, you won't get a flagrant 2. Helps that you land on your feet, but you do the quick apology. You don't let campaign writhe on the ground so you get a flagrant 1 to a flagrant 2. Savvy move by Ben Simmons. You get an honorary medal from your old buddy Kevin Wildes. Meanwhile, after the break, we're going to head to Brooklyn. 2 people out on an island all by themselves. Kevin Durant and Brandon Marshall's decision to wear a turtleneck in June. Will KD be able to pull it off as well as Brandon does? Stay tuned. We'll tell you after the break.
I'm going to the moon. I'm going to the moon.
Oh, we're back with Chris Broussard talking Bucks Nets Game 5. Steve Nash announced it. Kyrie's not playing this game. Neither is Harden. Still nursing the ankle sprain.
I wish my brothers were out there playing. I wish they were healthy. But like you said, that's a part of the game. And we all understand that. We wish they were out there playing, but I know they're going to be doing their best to get back on the floor and get healthy as fast as possible. And that's all we can hope for. I picture me doing everything out there just like I do every night. Some more than others. I might have to handle the ball more, might have to post up more, come on, pin down more. I just got to be prepared to do everything out there, just like any night. I mean, I always expect me to go out there and have good intentions every possession and play as hard as I can. And, you know, I've always approached the game that way. So, I mean, I just stick to what I know, stick to what I do, and go out there and play.
Broussard, he's going to have to do more of everything. Fair to expect KD to carry the Nets past the Bucks tonight.
I will say this, Wiles. That's a game face for you. I like it, KD. I like the game face, so we'll see what he does tonight. But no, it is not fair to expect Kevin Durant to lead the Nets past Milwaukee in this series. Now, can he get a game? Maybe, we'll see. But to expect him to win this series without his two running mates in Harden and Kyrie is not fair. Could LeBron beat Phoenix, a legit contender, without Anthony Davis? No. Could Nikola Jokic beat Phoenix, a legit contender, without Jamal Murray, his second best player? No. Could Steph Curry even get to the playoffs without his second best player, Klay Thompson? No. So we're going to rip Kevin Durant now if he doesn't get past Milwaukee? His second scorer is Joe Harris now, who hasn't taken anybody off the dribble since he was a teenager on the playgrounds in Chelan, Washington. All right? His point guard is Mike James, who a month ago was on a 10-day contract.
Don't talk about Mike James,
and he's 30 years old. All right? I'm not talking about the old Mike James.
Boy.
I'm talking about this new Mike James. He's 30 years old and was on a 10-day a month ago. All right? The last time
in
Blake
Moscow,
was
and he was a super scorer over there, international circuit. Leave my boy Mike James.
I could average 5 and 2 in Moscow. All right. The last time Blake Griffin was asked to be a primary scorer, he gave you 12 points on 36% shooting in Detroit. All right, and that was just earlier this season. Can we stop? I know Nick Wright wants to make this about, Kevin Durant's not as good as LeBron James. And Nick, guess what? You're right. Kevin Durant at his best is not as good as LeBron James at his best. And guess what? LeBron in his entire incredible, illustrious career, that's second only to Michael Jordan's, has only beaten one contender, Detroit in 2007, without a Hall of Famer in his prime on his team. Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie Irving, or Anthony Davis. So now we expect Kevin Durant to do it? Come on.
Look, I think Nick yesterday laid it up. He set the table. And Nick, who you were going after, those who tried to crush the Bucks. Oh, the Bucks are done. The Bucks are terrible. I was one of those guys. You also tried to set the table yesterday for this discussion. Like, well, hell, just the last couple weeks, now you're saying that KD has finally surpassed LeBron James. So I think that's who Nick was going after, Chris. But the reality is this: isn't this what you want as, a player of KD's caliber? Like, this is what you want. Like, you have nothing to lose. So I'm riding with KD tonight. I'm banking on KD going for 45 points. PJ Tucker, please. Ain't no PJ Tucker can hold that man down 3 games in a row and make it difficult for him. So Nick, look, I know I saw what you were doing yesterday, setting the table, but I'm with you on a lot of the stuff that you said yesterday, and you probably will say today. But man, if you're Kevin Durant, this is what you want. And I talked to someone close to KD yesterday, and I was like, come on, man, I'm getting crushed on TV. I've been riding with the Nets all year. Tell them boys to get healthy. Tell them boys to tape it up, do whatever they can. We got to get to the finals. We got to win it this year. And they said, Brandon, I'm telling you right now, KD's preparing to be without those guys game 5. And then game 6, he's expecting one of those guys to come back. And I'm telling you right now, he's ready for the challenge. Ooh. So what Chris said, as far as that game face, that is exactly what you saw. We're going to see somebody's going to come in and light it up.
Okay, I appreciate everything Brandon said. And what Chris Broussard just did there, while if you read the transcript, it's accurate, it's totally misleading. And this isn't about LeBron, but since you brought up LeBron, I will go down that path with you. Because we are not asking Kevin Durant to win a series. It's already 2-2, and when Kyrie went down, it was 2-1, and it was a 4-point game. The question is, can Kevin Durant win a home game tonight? And then, assuming they lose game 6, can he win a game 7 at home? To win twice. Hold on, leave Broussard on the screen, because I want to know what I'm missing here. So I do. So Kobe Bryant.
Wait, you're not asking him to win a series?
Wait. No, because the series is halfway over, Broussard. You're asking him to win 2 games. Series halfway over. Kobe Bryant, when Shaq left, when he got to the playoffs after missing it, he was in a situation where he was the best guy in the series. The other team had the next 3 or 4 best guys, Steve Nash's Suns, and it went 7. He lost, but he got games off him. You mentioned, yeah, but he didn't get swept. What you're talking about is, Katie, maybe they lose 2-0, maybe they lose 2-1, but it's totally unfair. You brought up LeBron when he didn't have Hall of Famers. Okay, you're right. They only beat Detroit once, but they took Detroit 7 once. They took Boston 7 once. You can win games. He has home court and is the best player in the series. It is disrespectful to Durant to act like, oh my God, what could you possibly expect from him? Well, you're playing a team whose coach has won nothing, whose best player has won nothing, second best player has won nothing, third best player. Nobody on the team has won anything. I don't think the Bucks have looked amazing this series. Do you? I heard you say even in their win they looked bad. And we're saying Kevin Durant, who is arguably right now the best healthy player in the world, I think inarguably the best healthy player in the world, that he's a 3-point dog tonight, that he can't dig down, score 46, put the pressure fully on Milwaukee, and then get his guys back for the conference finals. Why is that outrageous when we've seen so many guys of his caliber do something similar? Why? What am I missing?
Well, what I'm saying is, as I said, can he get a game? Sure. But to expect him to win 2 of the next 3, to kill him if he doesn't win 2 of the next 3.
Who's killing him?
That is what I'm saying is unfair. You're preparing. I see you got your guns loaded. I see them. They're right there on the table. They're right there on the table. The magazines and all. Right next to you on the table. And that's all I'm saying.
100%.
So, yeah, that's all I'm getting ready for.
Did I kill Steph?
No.
Hold on. Let me ask you guys a question. Wilds.
No, because you like Steph.
Did I kill?
You like Steph. That's why you didn't kill Steph.
I don't. It's Katie and I just had a lovely back and forth on Twitter talking about all-time NBA players. I got no beef with Durant. Like I think people are misreading Wilds the tweet I sent during the game, which was, wow, Kevin Durant for the first time in his career gets to see what basketball's like when you're not surrounded by other MVPs. And that is part of it.
Yeah, that was a nice
tweet. What is part of it is that Kevin Durant has, some through good fortune, some through good decisions on his own, positioned himself to where his entire career he's had other MVPs around him. So it will be good to see him in this spot without that. But nobody is going, there's not a person in the world that's going to say, if the Bucks win the next 2, well, now Durant's the 9th best player in basketball. It's not. It is more Wilds what you were talking about yesterday. He has very little to lose. He had a ton to lose if they lost this series at full strength. But he has very little to lose now. The pressure's kind of off him. He has a ton to gain, though. Like, the upside is massive. The downside is minimal because of the injuries.
Yep.
At least that's how I look at it.
See, I agree with you. The most interesting thing that's going to happen tonight is we're going to see a different version of Kevin Durant. And I know you talked about it yesterday of like, hey, do what Luka does. Well, Luka's the primary ball handler, right? LeBron is the primary ball handler. Durant's not. And Broussard, you mentioned it too. Like, Durant gets his. So look at the regular season, how long he's holding the ball. In Game 4, once Kyrie went down, everything went up. He was in the backcourt, means he was getting the ball 65% of the time and holding it for an average of 5 seconds. That's more than he did the regular season. It's more than he did the playoffs. So I expect those numbers to go up even higher now that Kyrie's out for the full game, Broussard. The question to you is, do you think this is an effective way for him to play? That this is not his game. So it's like, all right, well, the more Durant, the better. Or, you're taking some guy who is excellent and asking him to do something brand new that's not the best strategy.
Yeah, look, he's not LeBron James or Luka Doncic in that regard. Can he bring the ball up court? Is he a pretty good passer? All that? Yes, he can facilitate to a degree. We've seen him do it at times in his career. So it won't be completely uncomfortable for him, but he's not going to do it at the level of the guys I just mentioned. Okay, so I do think it's the best thing for them to do, though, because he can get his points. He's going to get 30 plus. We know that. But he's also going to have to get help from the other guys. If he is bringing the ball up court, facilitating, this is what I wanted to see the Lakers do more of once Anthony Davis was out against Phoenix, because it allows LeBron to control the game and the tempo more. KD can't do it at LeBron's level, but if he's bringing the ball up court, maybe he can control the tempo of the game and give the Nets a better chance of winning. The other thing is this. I believe the refs will not let it be as physical as it was in Milwaukee.
That's right.
I mean, PJ Tucker and the Bucks did a great job against Brooklyn in Milwaukee. But a lot of it also was the physicality. I mean, it was darn near football out there. I mean, they were really you can't stop KD once he's at the height of his shot because he's too tall. But they were bumping him, not letting him get to his spots, bumping him before the shot, after the shot, when he's running off screens. All of that stuff, the refs will not I don't believe, will allow it to be as physical tonight, which could help KD.
Yeah. And if the refs don't take care of it, KD's bodyguard will. Just one quick note for tonight. Advice to the Bucks. I would not rest Giannis mid-quarter the way Bud likes to. I would give him his rest at the end of quarters, because I think Brooklyn is going to go to a hack a Giannis strategy once they're in the bonus. And I would try to remove that card from them. I think that's really in play, that if they're in the penalty with 2 minutes left in a quarter, they'll start fouling Giannis. So just remove that card from them by having him play the first 9-10 minutes of a quarter, get his rest once, especially if the game is called tight, Broussard, because then teams are going to be in the penalty early. You can go to hack a Giannis. But I am just, Brandon, I appreciate that you have as much respect and appreciation for how talented Kevin Durant is. I'm a little disappointed Broussard doesn't. I didn't know he was such a hater.
But I'm with Chris.
It's just really
you have all your guns loaded and ready to go to war after this series. If it goes, if it goes all bad for the Nets.
You do. Non-violent protester. No firearms. Come on, guys.
Hey, we're heading out west to talk about Broussard's Clippers. Are they back on track to win a title, even though they can't beat Utah in Utah? Here's Joel Embiid admiring Kawhi's poster dunk during his press conference.
It just felt like I didn't have it tonight. And of course you can kind of, oh my God. It's not done.
That's it, Jim. Thank you, Jim.
See how Kawhi done? Oh, it's crazy. Man. Wow. But you could say from the beginning of the game, he was
Just days before clashing in a Hell in a Cell match for the Universal Championship, will Rey Mysterio avenge his son Dominic after another brutal attack by Roman Reigns? It's an all-new Friday Night SmackDown, live at 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox.
Nice. Time for stories to start your morning, brought to you by Subway. Tonight, Bucks Nets Game 5. Steve Nash announced yesterday Kyrie's not coming back for this game. He's still nursing the ankle sprain. Harden, not back either. That means KD's all by his lonesome. Here's KD talking to the media yesterday. Take a listen.
I wish my brothers were out there playing. I wish they were healthy. But like you said, that's a part of the game. And we all understand that. We wish they were out there playing, but I know they're going to be doing their best to get back on the floor and get healthy as fast as possible, and that's all we can hope for. I picture me doing everything out there, just like I do every night. Some more than others. I might have to handle the ball more, might have to post up more, come off pin down more. I just got to be prepared to do everything out there, just like any night. I mean, I always expect me to go out there and have good intentions every possession and play as hard as I can. And, I've always approached the game that way. So, I mean, I just stick to what I know, stick to what I do, and go out there and play.
Brandon, fair to expect KD to carry the Nets past the Bucks all by himself?
Well, unfair if we're talking about through this series by himself, but one game, absolutely. And it can be this game. I'm expecting KD to go for 45 plus. He has to. And he also needs help from a Joe Harris. We haven't seen Joe Harris step up since game 2 of the Celtics series. He went 7 for 10 from 3. 25 points. Where are you at, Joe Harris? Let's go, buddy. Now he's off lately. We're talking about missing 13 of 16 from deep. We need some help. Until those boys come back, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, you need to step up and do your part. But it is fair to say that he can get a game, and this can be the game. You look at his eyes, look at his face. He's locked in. He's ready to go. I talked to somebody close to KD yesterday, and I was just like, buddy, man, you got to tell your guys, man, to get healthy, to wrap it up, do whatever they can to get back. Because I've been pounding the pavement for the Nets all year. Now is not the time to break down. They got to figure out how to get past the Bucks. And he said, look, KD's prepared to play a game 5 without them. And then game 6, he does expect one of those guys to come back. But he's locked in and he's more than ready to take this challenge. So Nick, that old cliche and that saying of, big time players play big in big moments. Well, this is a big moment. And if you're a player, this is what you want. He has nothing to lose. Go out there and do your thing, KD.
Well, that last thing, who's the pressure on tonight? It's on Milwaukee. If Milwaukee loses this series, it's a disaster for them now. It's like, okay, Harden played 40 seconds. Kyrie played 3.5 games and then went out. And we still couldn't beat him. How do you bring Bud back? How do you look at the team and say next year will be different? So the pressure's squarely on Milwaukee. That's first of all. Second of all, people are acting as if, I'm not talking about Brandon, but a lot of the commentary around this, as if this is the start of a series and he doesn't have these two guys. It's not. It's 2 games you need to win, and 2 of the next 3 are in your building. When we thought it was going to be Jazz Warriors in the first round, if the Warriors had beaten Memphis in the play-in, my pick was Jazz in 6. I thought, Steph can get a couple home games. We saw when LeBron lost Kyrie at the end of game 1 of those finals and didn't have Kevin Love in those finals in 2015. They played 5 more games. LeBron won 2. The Warriors won 3. We saw Kobe when his second best player, what was it, Bynum? Who was the second best player back in 2006? I don't even remember. But we saw them play the Suns. Kobe won 3. The Suns won 4. The idea that KD, when he's the best player on the court at home, can't go for 47 and win the game is insane. Now, should KD be crushed if they lose? Of course not. Does KD all of a sudden, Wilds, have, in a weird way, more to gain in this series than he ever would have if those 2 guys were healthy? Of course. If those guys were healthy the whole time and they win this series, I end up being wrong about it. But aside from that, everyone's like, yeah, we expected him to. Now KD gets to wear the hat. When's the last time KD got to be the underdog? 8 years ago in the finals against LeBron? Good. It's been a long time. Guess what? We bring up finals losses for people all the time. Guess what never gets thrown in KD's face? The 2012 finals against LeBron. You know why? People were like, hey, you're not supposed to win. You were younger, nobody kills him for it. Because he was the underdog, even though I think they were actually the Vegas favorites in the series. We look at it, we're like, they were the underdog. So it's not quite a free roll for Durant, but it's massive upside and minimal downside. I think it's going to be close in the 4th. I think they're going to have every chance to win. And if they do win tonight, Wilds, then Milwaukee goes into game 6. I don't want to say panicked, pretty damn nervous. Pretty damn nervous going into game 6 for Milwaukee, which they would have to win just to get a game 7 back in Brooklyn.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest games of KD's career. And it's super interesting because we get to see a different version of KD. We've never seen KD outside of the game he played at Rucker Park when I think he scored 45 points. Just take the ball out of bounds, bring it up court, shoot a 3, and do it again. In the regular season, he was touching the ball 3 seconds. In the backcourt, 45% of the time. All right, in the playoffs, he stepped it up a little bit. And then once Kyrie went down, he was averaging 5 seconds a touch, and he was in the backcourt 65%. Brandon, those numbers are going to go even higher tonight. So we're getting
right.
to see a brand new Kevin Durant, who's going to play a lot more like Luka, going to play a lot more like LeBron. I think it's going to be fascinating. But the question I have for you is this, my friend. You are a general raconteur of media and business. You've got on this show, First Things First. You're on the I Am Athlete podcast. You're on Inside the NFL. You were always playing Brandon Marshall. You're never a different character. You're never like, I was in the Uncle Drew movie. I played, Brian. Doesn't happen. And I'm not saying you're not a great actor. I'm just saying that you are great at being yourself. So I'm going to ask you this question, and I think that your acting skills will tell us the answer. Are you confident that KD will win this game for you? As the Nets fan, as the owner of several Brooklyn Nets jerseys, are you confident that the Nets are going to win? Here's Brandon Marshall, who is not a great actor. Go ahead, sir.
Look, you definitely put me on the spot, but I'm not confident. But at the end of the day, when you look at some of the greatest players, listen. But here's the deal, though, Nick. This is what you want as one of the greatest players to ever play the game that you play. Like, you want situations like it's a huge opportunity for KD to go out there. He has nothing to lose and just get after that. We saw him struggle a couple of games ago, but what did he do? He stayed aggressive. He kept shooting, and then all of a sudden he broke through in the fourth quarter. But Kyrie wasn't. He didn't contribute. Joe Harris didn't contribute. The whole team was flat. They didn't have their legs under them. It was just all flat. So this is a huge opportunity for KD. But Nick, here's the thing, though. PJ Tucker. Like, really? Like, we talked about it a few times already. You said it. Like, really, do you really expect P.J. Tucker for 3 games in a row to hold this guy down the way he's been doing? We've never seen anybody play D against KD this way.
Because I think P.J. Tucker's going to get 2 fouls in the first 90 seconds of this game, and Steve Nash is already setting it up. But let me give a piece of advice to Steve Nash, who he's doing huddles with Jacques Vaughn. Should I take him out? Should I not take him out? What does D'Antoni think? They're like, Steve, you're the coach. So let me give Steve some advice.
Leave Steve alone. Leave my guy alone.
There has never been a game where you are more incentivized, and I hate it for the sport, but to go to the Haka strategy on Giannis. It's twofold. One is Giannis is shooting terrible from the line, and it could get in his head. The other is this. It extends Durant's rest. If you take Durant out for 90 seconds at the end of a quarter, but those 90 seconds actually take 7 minutes because you're fouling Giannis every time in those final 90 seconds, then maybe he can play 45 minutes. So that's smart coaching. It's bad basketball, but that's what thank you, Brandon. That's what they should do. I wonder if they will do it once.